Jason is absolutely who Sabrina Carpenter was talking about in her song Man-Child, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video. How are we? At the time of filming this first part of this video, because there will be multiple parts, it is currently the 8th of August, but by the time you guys see this video, it will probably be October, maybe even November. I don't know. I'm trying out this kind of new thing of filming multiple different videos at once over a longer period of time. Um, and then I also have like 3 more videos of footage that I need to like still edit and post. It's a whole lot. I have fallen kind of behind right now. But yeah, I've been quite busy. I've had stuff going on. I've been on holiday. I've been rehearsing for shows and performances and stuff. But over the next couple of months, I have a break in rehearsals and stuff, so should hopefully have a bit more time to edit, really kind of get down to business. So yeah, staying on top of everything is going to be a bit of a challenge, but the next couple of videos that I am going to film, I'm pretty excited about, especially this one, because it feels like over the next couple of months, over August and September, every single one of my favorite authors is releasing a book. It's a very exciting time. Not great for my bank account, but yeah, we move. So, what I want to do over the next couple of months is kind of take you through kind of I suppose, my top 5 most anticipated books of the year that are all coming out in the next couple of months. And there are a couple that I have very, very luckily been sent arcs for, that I have read or will read in advance. And then a few that I haven't got arcs for that I will read kind of in real time as soon as I get them. And you will get my like live reaction pretty much. It's a very exciting time. I'm a little bit nervous because my expectations for some of these books are so high, that I will potentially be disappointed. But you know what? I'm pretty confident that I will enjoy most, if not all of them. So we are starting off already on a high because the first book that came out officially yesterday, um, is a book that I have already read. I got an arc for it. It was, I'm pretty sure, my most anticipated release of the entire year, from one of my all-time favorite authors, and I got an arc of it. And I went to the launch event on Wednesday, which was also a part of Bookfest, Waterstones Piccadilly, which was a whole other thing. Like that was an experience in itself. I made a TikTok video, kind of a immediate reaction to it as soon as I got home. So go on my TikTok page if you want to hear about that. I won't get too into it right now, but as part of Bookfest, there was a launch event for this book, and I got to get my copy signed and meet the author, and it was a whole fun time. That was brilliant. That was definitely the best part of Bookfest, hands down. So I have already read it, which means that I can actually give you my review right now, um, despite only just having received a physical copy of the book. And my god, is she stunning. So yeah, the first book that I'm going to talk about in this video is A Beautiful Evil by B. Fitzgerald. And oh my god, like, genuinely, I think this is probably my favorite cover that possibly ever. Like, it's shiny, got the contrast between the bright green and like the bronze lettering, and like there are parts that are like raised on the cover, like you got like the clothes, and this kind of border around it is like kind of cut into, engraved into the cover or something. And yeah, it's just like, as a very tactile person, I like things that are interesting to touch. That came out wrong. Um, I enjoy tactile things, so this is a really fun dust jacket. And then, okay, you firstly have, other than the dust jacket, you have these fantastic sprayed edges, which, holding it upside down this way, these sprayed edges that say "This love is cursed." I love an interesting sprayed edge that isn't just a plain color. I'm sure I've ranted on this channel before about plain sprayed edges and why they're incredibly boring and need to stop. But fun sprayed edges I enjoy. So you have that, and then I'm gonna take the dust jacket off because I think the prettiest part of the book is actually what is underneath the dust jacket. Hang on, it's hard to do this while holding a mic. And you have this, and like this is just, it's so pretty, like the colors, and it's shiny, and like the purple and the green goes so well together. I just, it makes me so happy, so happy. So A Beautiful Evil is a retelling of the myth of Pandora, which is one of my favorite stories, but it's also a story that gets so misinterpreted and misunderstood. Like Pandora as a character, I feel has been so misunderstood kind of throughout history. There's not a lot of kind of original source material on her. The the most detailed source material we have is a letter from Hesiod to his brother that isn't even wholly about her. Like she's just an example of like a bad woman that is brought up in that letter. So yeah, immediately the vibes are not good. But yeah, I've been waiting for like a proper mainstream contemporary retelling of Pandora that does her justice. And honestly, as soon as B. Fitzgerald announced this book and that she was going to do a retelling of Pandora, I was like, there's no one that I trust more with this figure from mythology than B. Fitzgerald. And oh my god, my expectations were high, but like they were so exceeded by this. Oh, slay. sorry, sorry. I've just been approved for yet another arc on NetGalley. I, I I have so many unread arcs. I really need to get to them. Yeah. Anyway, so firstly, the characters. Pandora in this book is a plus size autistic woman, and like that is fantastic rep. Beatrice Fitzgerald herself is autistic, so like she used a lot of her own experiences. Like Pandora was made with a specific purpose by the gods, but she also feels like she was made wrong for the world, and she feels very different to the other humans that she comes across. And her being plus size as well is fantastic. Like she complains about chafing thighs, which is so real. That is the representation we need. And she also is a romantic lead. Like she is desired by Matthias, not in spite of her size, but because of her size. And like that is just, it makes my heart so warm to have this sexy plus size character who is an object of desire, but she's also seen as incredibly human, and she's not fetishized in any way or degraded. But as well as being plus size and autistic, she also has so many other aspects to her. Like she loves both baking and mechanics, and she's flirtatious and sexually liberated, and she's selfless and stubborn and curious, and yeah, she is just this incredibly human character, and I just love reading her journey of exploring and embracing her identity and learning to love herself as she is. I think something that B. Fitzgerald always does really, really well is write main characters who, over the course of the story, learn to embrace and love the parts of themselves that society wants to shame them for. Like you see that with Persephone and Girl Goddess Queen, and you see that with um, Cassandra and Helen, both in The End Crown Zor, and you see that with Pandora in this book. Like it's just, again, makes my heart so warm. Matthias, on paper, I was a little bit less sure about because into this, I knew this was going to be a grumpy sunshine story and also like a tiny lady and large man story. And both of those are tropes that I don't vibe with. Um, so yeah, that was the one thing I was a little bit apprehensive about. But I really liked Matthias. Like has he comes across at first as being very standoffish, but like you realize that he has a reason to be that way and he has a lot of baggage that he needs to get through. But underneath all that, he is just he's soft and he's kind and yeah, I liked him. And the romance between the two of them is just it's so slow burn and it's filled with so much yearning because like it's kind of a forbidden love type plot line, but it's also different to that. It's like they don't want to be in love, but it's inevitable, you know, like they are just drawn to each other. The story as well, I really enjoyed. Like, there is a mystery that needs to be solved, and there are so many like little pieces and clues throughout the story that kind of eventually come together. And there are some fantastic plot twists. Like, there were even some clues at the start of the story that I was like, hang on, like I was worried that those kind of little details were potentially going to be like significant plot holes in the story, but I should not have doubted B. Fitzgerald at any time because those potential plot holes were actually setting the scene for like massive plot twists. So yeah, I should have had more faith, obviously. And yeah, the way the plot kind of worked out was just nothing that I could ever predict. Like there is talk of like time travel and multiverse theory. Like for a Greek myth retelling, that is wild that it gets into almost sci-fi territory. That's as someone who is very much into time travel and like sci-fi, that is everything I ever wanted. Overall, it's a very timely and I think much needed story about hope and rebelling in the face of seemingly impossible odds, like, you know, overpowered dictators who want to play God and rule everything and have everything under their control and power, you know. That's not similar to real life at all. So yeah, that's it really. Like this I did have kind of a little review of this book in my holiday vlog video, which was when I read the arc initially. So yeah, I feel like I've just repeated everything there, but like this book is so good. Definitely a highlight of the year. Um, yeah, B. Fitzgerald never misses, for real. Yeah, I would definitely recommend. I would potentially suggest reading Girl Goddess Queen before reading this because there are a couple of characters in Girl Goddess Queen that make an appearance in this one, a couple of references that you might not appreciate having not read Girl Goddess Queen, and you should just read Girl Goddess Queen anyway because it is really, really good. But I mean, this is still a standalone, so it doesn't really matter. You should just read it, please. It's out now. So that is the first book of this video down. I'm gonna have to wait now for a little bit because the officially the next book doesn't come out until the 26th of August, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be able to get my hands on it a little bit earlier than that, because I'm going to an event where I think I've got a copy. I can't actually remember if I got a ticket with the copy. Yeah, at some point I will get another book and I will start reading it. I have already started preparing for it. I have like this is going to be a big clue as to what it is, but I have my copy of Dante's Inferno that I've started like annotating and highlighting and stuff like that, which I haven't done for ages. I have not annotated the book for years and years. And like it part of me feels really wrong for like defacing a book, but at the same time it's like I'm actually having so much fun just like making my little notes and my little highlights and doing a bit of research. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next book. Um, Hopefully, I will have finished Inferno by then. Yeah, I will see you at some point, I'm sure. Hello, it's been a while um, since we last spoke. It's been a couple of weeks now. The time has come. I have now got my hands on another one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it is, of course, the one and only Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. Last night I went to a talk, an interview that she was doing with Samantha Shannon, who I also really like. I've only read one of her books so far, but I really like her. And yeah, it was sold out talk, really busy, but yeah, it was just incredible getting to hear her speak. And it's just the way that she articulates her thoughts and her opinions. It's just like, just her mind. R.F. Kuang is just so intelligent. I mean, she's an academic, so obviously, but it's just, yeah, she's just so smart. And listening to her talk, like, genuinely, it kind of makes me miss being in academia. And that's a statement I never thought I would ever say. But like, one of the things I miss about being at university is like listening to people talk really, really passionately about the stuff that they're researching and writing about. It's just, when you're watching them and you see their eyes light up as they start to get into like the really technical aspects that you don't really understand, but you enjoy listening to because they're just so passionate about it. Like, that was me watching R.F. Kuang talk for 45 minutes about analytical philosophy and all of these really technical concepts that, I mean, I had no idea, but like it was just, yeah, so interesting. And yeah, when I went up to have my book signed, I brought a copy of Babel with me, my hardback copy of Babel, to get signed, because that book is everything to me. As a classicist, as someone who enjoys translation theory and reception theory, and yeah, and also like critiquing of academia as an institution, and also ripping apart Oxford as well, because I have beef. But yeah, I went up to get my book signed and I had a whole speech prepared about how like I really appreciate Babel as a book and as this kind of amazing dark academia book, like the blueprint for books that critique elitism and racism and sexism in academia and in kind of higher education institutions. Yeah, I had it all prepared, and also as a classicist and as an ancient linguist, I really liked all the translation theory stuff as well. I found it really interesting. Like, I had it all prepared, but as soon as I got to the table and like she took my book and had a little post-it note with my name inside so that she knew who to dedicate it to, and she smiled at me and said, "Hi, Liv," and all intelligent thought left my head. I was just like, she said my name. Like, truly just completely starstruck. Honestly. I made a complete fool of myself, but yeah, just incredible. 10 out of 10 experience. Would totally recommend. Would definitely do it again. And now I have a copy of Katabasis. Technically, this doesn't come out until next week, next Tuesday, and it's Thursday today. So I actually have this book like almost a week before most other people will get it, which makes me feel kind of special. And yeah, it's very exciting. It is a lovely special edition with the sprayed edges, which honestly gorgeous. I was kind of apprehensive about this cover, um, because like it felt it looked kind of underwhelming when I first saw it, like on the cover reveal, and it was, it's a digital picture, and I was a bit like, hmm, yeah, I guess. But looking at it in person, and it's all kind of shiny and metallic with sprayed edges as well. Like I warmed up to it a bit, and it's got a cute little quote on the back as well, like that. Yeah, I like that. Um, so yeah, I don't mind the cover now. I did start this on the train home last night. You will see the tail end of a bookmark hanging out there. Yeah, I started it on the train home. I'm not very far in. I'm like 50 pages in out of like 500 something. So yeah, not very far in. No real thoughts to share just yet. Um, yeah, too early for proper opinions, but so far I am enjoying it. Um, we are 50 pages in, and one of the main characters has already had a panic attack and cried on the other main character's shoulder. So that's a great sign. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. And I'm looking forward to reading more of it. I have, I think, exactly a week until the next book comes out, the next book that I want to read for this video. And it's another book that I don't have the arc of, so I will be reading it as soon as I start it, hopefully, as long as I finish this one. So yeah, I have a week to read this. So I better keep going. Yeah, I'm very happy. I will see you when I have finished this. Hello. How are we? It's been a few days. Um yeah, let's have a little update because there's there's stuff to talk about. So I finished Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. Um I finished this in like 3 days, 4 days. Genuinely, I thought this was going to be another Babel situation where I read like half of it over the span of like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I had to take a break halfway through for like a month just to just to like cleanse my palate a little bit and read something that was more fast paced. And then once I came back to it, like the second half flew by. I read it in a matter of days. I thought this was going to be like that, but I whizzed through this. I could not put it down. Look, I tried to temper my expectations a little bit because a lot of the reviews I was seeing from people who read early copies, people who got arcs and proofs and stuff, weren't massively positive. So yeah, I tried very hard to temper my expectations and go into this with an open mind, you know, not really expecting anything. Um, and I think that possibly helped me not having like these massive expectations that this book was going to be perfect. But honestly, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think this book might actually be on par with Babel. I I don't actually know whether this is going to be my favorite R.F. Kuang book in the end, because I think recency bias comes into it a little bit. I read Babel what, a couple of years ago now, and it's stuck in my head as one of my favorite books of all time. Um, and we are yet to see how long this book stays living rent free in my brain. So I'm not sure whether my opinion is going to be the same in a year or two. Um, but I love this. So the book follows two rival postgrad students, Alice and Peter, as they journey into hell in order to rescue the soul of their advisor, so that he can write them recommendation letters and they can like get jobs once they graduate. Um, as someone who has been in academia, like mood, honestly, like it is rough out there, and honestly, I have considered doing a PhD, but I don't think I'm cut out for it at all. And like the discussion of academia as an institution in this book, and all of the sinister side to it, and how it's kind of corrupt, and how how people can exercise their power and abuse their power over other people. Not gonna lie, that makes me kind of glad that I didn't pursue a PhD. Yeah, it gets messy in this book. There are, most of it does take place in hell, but there are flashbacks um to pre-hell times, um, to what Alice and Peter's lives were like studying at Cambridge. The world building of hell is so well done. It's like meticulously researched. It draws from so many different myths and legends and stuff. Loads and loads of different sources. I would say it's primarily a mix of like Christian and classical mythology and tradition, but I mean, that is what I am most familiar with, so that is probably going to affect how many references I personally recognized. There's also a bit of Hindu tradition in there. Um, yeah, so much. It feels kind of eerie, like like this kind of hellscape. It felt very kind of liminal, spacey, um, a little bit kind of Alice in Wonderland like, which I think was intentional because R.F. Kuang has mentioned it as a source of inspiration. But also, like, there's this book that I read when I was younger that I am convinced no one else read, apart from maybe my dad, because he was the one who gave me the book. It's called The Phantom Toll Booth, and it's about a boy who has, like, a little kind of toy car, like one of those electric cars that he kind of drives around, and he ends up driving through this, like, fantasy world with loads of like colorful characters who are all based on like puns and wordplay and stuff, and it's very smart, very clever, and that is kind of what this feels like it's kind of it's kind of an eerie kind of fantasy dark world, but there's also a lot of like fun references to academia and um yeah, just general kind of smart people references. I did just find it really fun to read, and as well as the world building, like the magic system, it's all based around like logic and paradoxes and stuff, and the magic is stored in like the chalk that they use, which is another like reference to academia and like old timey school stuff. And that was really fun to read as well because like I'm not massively familiar with a lot of paradoxes and I know absolutely nothing about logic, but it was still like fun to kind of learn about it. Like that's something that I love about R.F. Kuang's books. Like they make me feel smart, but in a positive way rather than a negative way. They make me feel smart because they make me feel like I'm actually learning something or, seeing something from a different perspective. And yeah, I love that. I feel like I learnt things in this book. And also, like, despite all of the kind of reading lists that people have been talking about, of like books you need to read before you read this in order to like fully understand it, you don't need to read anything. Like, I feel like this book, if you are willing to, fully digest the stuff that is on the page, the information that is given to you, it's relatively accessible. Like, you don't really need to do a massive amount of other research. Um, Particularly. If you do want further reading, then I think really the only stuff you need to know about is Dante's Inferno and potentially like classical examples of katabasis is. Like classical examples of the descent into the underworld. I think the ones that are most referenced in this book are Orpheus and Eurydice, and um, the Aeneid, specifically Aeneid Book 6, but you don't need to like read original sources for any of those. Like you can literally spark notes all of them and you will probably like get enough information in there. But like even if you have like the bare bones of what happens in the Orpheus and Eurydice myth, like you'll be absolutely fine. I think I personally, for further reading, I'm thinking about looking into stories from Hinduism, um, Hindu mythology, particularly connected to uh, Yama, the god of death, because he is referenced in this book, and that's a bit of a blind spot for me personally. So that might be something that I would look into. Um, but yeah, you don't need to do any pre-reading to prepare for this, as long as you are willing to put in the work with the stuff that is given to you in the book. I liked the romance between Alice and Peter. It's not a romance book. If you are looking for a book that is primarily kind of focused on the romance, this isn't it. But there is a little bit of a romance subplot, with kind of a little bit of a rivals to lovers type thing going on. Um, yeah, it's these two people who are constantly pitted against each other and refuse to be vulnerable with each other, but that refusal to be vulnerable with each other leads to so much miscommunication and then just not being able to fully understand each other. Like, as a general rule, I'm not that into the miscommunication trope, but I think it is done really well in this case because it's not just miscommunication for the sake of miscommunication. There is a valid reason behind it. Um, and that is something that is overcome over the course of the book. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think Alice is a really compelling protagonist. Um, I feel like occasionally she gets a little bit passive and she kind of just lets things happen to her. But she does get over that eventually. And Peter is a sweetheart. Like he's a pretty decent book boyfriend, I gotta say. In terms of pacing, I think this book does pacing much better than Babel does. Like with Babel, the first half is so slow paced and has so much exposition with like explaining all the translation theory and the magic system and all that. Like it takes a while to get started. But like this one throws you into the action straight away. Like there isn't really any exposition. You get exposition, you get stuff explained to you as you go. So you start off not knowing much, but like all the kind of the puzzle pieces come together throughout the course of the book, and I think that is done really really well. It does help with the pacing and helps keep you engaged with the story and everything. The pacing does slow down a little bit towards kind of the 70 to 80% mark. um there's a bit of a kind of a lull in action between two quite action packed and climactic scenes, and I wouldn't necessarily say I was bored, but like I was kind of waiting for the next big thing to happen. So yeah, there was that. But like the conclusion, like the final scenes were just so satisfying. Like it ended in such a a a great way that just it made sense, but also it wasn't predictable. So yeah, that was nice. And also, I think this is potentially the first time I have finished a book by R.F. Kuang without, a sense of like despair and heartbreak. Like I was feeling emotions other than that for the first time. I was feeling more kind of hope and stuff, which like is unheard of for R.F. Kuang. Like that's great. So yeah, that is Katabasis. Overall, I love this book. I really really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend. But also, I am a nerd, so like if you aren't a nerd, then maybe you won't enjoy it as much. So I don't know. That's up to you, I guess. But yeah, it's a solid book. And I also finished Catabasis just in time because look what came in the post today. This is my next book that I pre-ordered. I don't have to like go out and collect it this time. Um, yeah, let's crack it open. I'm just gonna put the mic down on the table here, so if the sound is messed up, that is why. I need both hands in order to open this because these parcels are notoriously unsatisfying to open. One Piece. That never happens. Can I open it that way to show you the cover first? I think. Three, two, one. Ah! So this is Boudica's Daughter by Elodie Harper, author of the Wolf Den trilogy, aka my favorite trilogy ever. I'm gonna pick the mic up now, just to make sure the sound is better. This is a spin-off slash prequel to the Wolf Den trilogy. It takes place in the same universe, and there, I think there's a cameo from one character in this book who is also in the Wolf Den trilogy. So yeah, it's an entirely different story and it's kind of a standalone. But I'm just I loved the Wolf Den trilogy so much. I have never sobbed at a book as much as I sobbed during the Temple of Fortuna. Tears were shed, so many tears. I was just so invested in the characters and the setting. Elodie Harper does setting so well. Like her Pompeii is just so vibrant and full of life until it's not. So yeah, I'm very, very interested to see what she does with this entirely new setting of ancient Britain and an entirely different cast of characters, a cast of powerful, determined women. Thankfully, I did actually finish my previous book this morning because I managed to actually fit in two books after I read Katabasis. I've been busy. And so, yeah, that means I can dive right into this. And also, this has come just in time because tomorrow I am going to an event in London with Elodie Harper. And that means I can take this book along and hopefully get it signed and dedicated by her. Like, this is a signed copy already because that is what I ordered, a signed special edition from Waterstones. But yeah, that's very exciting. So, yeah, I'm going to start reading and I will see you at some point for another update. Right, let's talk Boudica's Daughter, shall we? I finished this book last night and yeah, I have thoughts. So, Boudica, as you might know, was a British queen. She was a queen of a tribe called the Iceni, who were based in kind of East Anglia, the east of England. Um, and she led a revolt against the Romans who were conquering the land at the time. But what you might not know is that the revolution was actually started as a result of her husband, the king of the Iceni, dying, leaving the kingdom to his two daughters, and the Romans being like, hell no, claiming the kingdom for themselves, and then to um, punish the women for their what they saw as like defiance towards the empire, going to have Boudica flogged and her daughters raped, and as a result of that very, very shocking act of violence, this massive revolution happened. Um, and yeah, it's kind of gone down in history as like one of the most famous revolts against the Roman Empire, especially because it was led by a woman, which the Romans saw as like completely disgraceful to like have their their conquest threatened by a woman. So the protagonist of this book is obviously one of Boudica's daughters, who Elodie Harper is called Selena, and yeah, she starts off the book in Roman Britain, and the revolt happens, and then if you know anything about the history of the revolt, it doesn't particularly end well for the Britons. So yeah, she ends up going to Rome, and most of the book actually takes place in Rome after the revolution, which I didn't really expect. Like the revolt is over very quickly, and then most of the book takes place in Rome afterwards, which like I went to an event with Elodie Harper last week, and she explained that, like her kind of reasons for writing the book like that, very well. Like she wanted to explore more kind of the aftermath of like the big thing happening, because that is a story that is quite rarely explored and discussed. Which, you know, is fair. It's just not really what I was expecting. I was kind of expecting lots and lots of like battle scenes and stuff. Um, but it feels a lot more domestic than that. Selena is a fantastic protagonist. Um, I've said this before about Elodie Harper's books, but she really knows how to write these female characters who are so strong and determined and complex. Like, they are often forced because of their circumstances, as like, you know, they have a lot less power than the men do in Roman society. They're often forced to make some pretty terrible decisions. Um, but you can really sympathize with them. They don't always make the best choices morally, but like you can't really judge them for that because they are often forced into really difficult circumstances. And the same happens with Selena in this book. Like she, after the revolt, is like there's it's not great things happen to her afterwards, and you know she does whatever she can to escape that situation. The story isn't just told from her point of view, though. Her narration makes up the bulk of the book, but you also get chapters from her mother, Boudicca, and also a Roman general called Paulinus, who kind of led the the Roman army against uh, Boudicca's army, and that was really interesting as well. I thought including Boudicca's perspective um, was a really good idea to kind of explore that mother daughter relationship between her and Selena. It's a bit of a strained relationship. They don't fully understand each other, but there is still a lot of love there, and I really liked reading about that. And then Paulinus is a really interesting character because, you know, he could have very easily been cast as like the villain of the story. Um, like he is the colonizer. But I don't know, as I read further on, I low key felt myself feeling a lot of sympathy for him. He is this very complex character who, like Selena, is forced to make these very difficult choices. Um, and you know, he doesn't make the best decisions, but he also has this drive to stay alive, and because of that, he, you know, he has to go along with some pretty terrible things. I will warn you, and this is potentially a little bit of a minor spoiler, but Elodie Harper also talked about this in her talk before any of us had read the book. So yeah, but there is a little bit of a romance that could potentially be described as like a colonizer romance. And when I started reading it, I was like, oh, okay, not sure how I feel about that. Because, you know, there is this massive power imbalance, but I don't know, the romance isn't, this isn't going to make any sense, but the romance isn't romanticized in any way. Like, Elodie Harper constantly treats it with a lot of nuance. Like, this is a guy who has done terrible things to her people, her family, her land, and there are a lot of conflicting feelings with that. But at the same time, he is completely whipped for her, and she has used that to her advantage to guarantee her safety. I don't know, it's interesting, and I feel like you can't really hold that kind of relationship to modern standards because like this is the ancient world, and things were different, I guess. I don't know, I'm not really sure where I'm going with this. I still have kind of mixed feelings about it, but I don't know, I do really appreciate that that kind of relationship was handled with a lot of nuance, and the kind of complexity of it was very much explored. It's not sugar coated, it's not romanticized. It's not saying, look at this wonderful romance. It's so cute. Like that very much does not happen. I don't know. I there were parts of it that I enjoyed reading, especially towards the end. There's a conversation that happens pretty much at the very end of the book that kind of gives quite a bit of closure to it, and yeah, it just sums up the whole nature of the relationship. And I really, really appreciated that because it is a very complex relationship with very, very rocky beginnings. And I liked that aspect of it wasn't ignored in favor of just, being a cute, fluffy romance. I think my one major criticism for this book is with the pacing. Like, you really feel the pacing of this one. Because, like, in the Wolf Den trilogy, I think it's about a year per book in terms of time passing. In this one, I don't know if it's explicitly said how many years pass, but it must be like at least 4 years, five, maybe more within the span of this book. And you really feel that, especially like in the first kind of 150 pages and then the last 100 pages. Um, like I really wanted there to be more time spent in Roman Britain and more scenes dedicated to the revolt. I think Elodie Harper does such an amazing job of writing setting. Um, and you can see that with how vibrant the setting of Roman Britain is, and then later Rome itself. And yeah, I wanted to spend more time in Roman Britain because it seemed so cool. It seemed like a place that Selena loves and feels at home in. And yeah, I just felt like the revolt was over before it even fully started. There is kind of only one major action scene that we actually like see fully, and then the rest of it is kind of told to us. Either that or it's over in like a matter of like 1 or 2 pages. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like more time could have been spent on that. And then also going to the other end of the book, it covers the year of the four emperors. Four emperors, I think. Yeah. There's basically a massive political crisis that is happening in Rome because you have all of these corrupt people stealing power for themselves and then like killing their predecessors. You have a lot of that, and that that entire like year of the four emperors is covered in like the last 100 pages of the book. And I don't know, I kind of want a little bit more political intrigue and stuff happening, and also like things happening in person rather than off page. Like you would start a chapter and the beginning of the chapter would be like, oh, this has happened and now this has happened and that is how these characters are dealing with it. And then the next chapter would be like, oh, this guy's dead now and this guy's replaced him. And then you get like 2 chapters on and be like, oh yeah, this guy has died again. I don't know, I was just a little bit like, slow down. Please, just give me some space to breathe. Maybe that was the point. Like maybe the point was to like have everything feel kind of rushed because that is something that happens when you're living through a political crisis. Like things change very quickly and you don't really have the time to adjust to them. As an aside, I thought that L.G. Harper's writing of the experience of living through a political crisis was very well done. The kind of feeling of balancing on a knife edge and not really knowing which side to be on. Um, like both in Britain with like the tumultuousness of living under the Roman Empire, and then in Rome with the like you start off in the court of Nero, who is like he was a notoriously capricious emperor who like killed people on a whim. And then you have the year of the four emperors, which was also a very tumultuous time because people were killing other people willy nilly. But yeah, I don't know. Reading that part of the book kind of felt like in Horrible Histories, like the original series with the six idiots. you know the sketches of like the news correspondent, like Lawrence Rickard talking through history at a very fast pace. It felt like one of those sketches and him being like, but not for long.
But not for long! But not for long! But not for long!
But like that would happen after every single chapter. But
Not
not
for
for long.
long!
Did they ever do a sketch on the Year of the Four Emperors? Because I feel like that would be top tier inspiration for so much content. So, yeah, I think what I'm really getting at is that I just wanted this book to be longer, which, you know, I don't say very often for a almost 500-page book. Um, but yeah, I mean, I personally I can't get enough of L.D. Harper's writing. I think this book could have easily been a duology, but you know what? I think it still works really well as a standalone. Um, I liked the kind of the links to the Wolf Den with one character in particular. I liked seeing her kind of origin story. Um, yeah, overall, I think I'm gonna give this 4.5 stars. It is not quite Wolf Den trilogy standard, because those books were like 4.75 to 5 stars. They're just yeah, best trilogy ever. Um, but as a little kind of addition to the Wolf Den, I think it works really, really well, and I would definitely recommend it. I just loved diving back into that world that is so vibrant and well written and with such amazing characters. So that is, what is that, a third book down? We're doing really well. I haven't actually got my copy of the fourth book just yet. I think I'm probably going to have to wait about another week for it. So I'm going to be very impatient. But the good news is I have actually already read it as an arc. So as soon as I do get my hands on the copy, I will tell you all about it, and you don't need to wait for me to read it. So, yeah, I will see you in about a week.
Hello.
It's here. It's time. It's been a few days. I have been waiting somewhat patiently for this. Actually, I have not been patient at all. So, yeah, without further ado, let's crack this open and see what's inside. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Look at this. It is so shiny. I love it. And the spine is super shiny as well, which I was not expecting. And also, I did get the Waterstones exclusive edition, which has these lovely sprayed edges, which I'm very happy about. And it's also signed on the inside, just on the end papers, which is very cool. So, yes, this is No Friend to This House by Natalie Haynes, which is a retelling of the Argonautica. Note that I mentioned the Argonautica and not just Medea, because there's a lot more covered in this book, not just Medea. I actually went to an event where Natalie Haynes was speaking about this book. Um, what was it, the night before last? Yes, Tuesday night. It was the start of her book tour, and sorry, there is a door slamming somewhere in the house. I'm gonna go and fix that. Be right back. Where were we? Yes, I got to see Natalie Haynes talk about this book and the Argonautica and Euripides Medea, which are kind of the two main texts that she based the book off of, although there were lots of other sources being used. And it was great. It was basically just like a stand up show of her doing stand up, but with a lot of like really niche mythology references. It honestly, like, if my lectures at uni had been like that and had, actually like made me laugh and made me entertained, I would probably still be in academia. So yeah, it was really great. And I got to meet Natalie after the show, and I brought a big stack of books. Not this one, unfortunately, because it didn't arrive on time. But yeah, it was really nice. I just got to tell her how much her books mean to me as someone who, you know, loves mythology and loves classical reception studies and myth retellings. And one of her books, The Children of Jocasta, was like, I think, the very first myth retelling I read. And as soon as I read it, I was like, I'm going to make this my entire personality. And then I studied classics for 4 years and got a whole load of student debt. It's very exciting whenever she has a new book coming out. So this is this one, and as I think I've mentioned before, I did end up reading it as an arc. I read it last month, and that was honestly so cool. The scream I scrumped when I got approved for that arc, and I'm really really grateful for that. So yeah, let's actually talk about it now. So as I said, this is a retelling of the Argonautica, and just kind of that cycle of myths. It is multiple POV, like with A Thousand Ships and Stone Blind. It does seem like that is the the kind of signature style of Natalie Haynes's myth retellings now, which I don't know. I have mixed feelings on. I think sometimes it does really work very well, and sometimes it doesn't. This one is kind of a 50-50. But I'll talk about that later. But yeah, multiple POV. It means that all of the women involved in the cycle of myths kind of get to speak, get to share their story. That of course includes Medea, but it also includes Hypsipyle, who is the queen of Lemnos, and that is honestly probably my favorite part of the entire book. The section on Lemnos where the Argonauts kind of land on this island where the men have mysteriously vanished and it's all women, and you get taken through kind of what happened on this island. And honestly, I could have read an entire novel about that kind of saga on Lemnos. Um, yeah, that was a real highlight of the book. And you also get a load of goddesses who also get involved and meddle in the affairs of Jason, the other mortals. Natalie did actually mention, I think, towards the start of her talk about how like Jason doesn't really do anything without the help of at least one goddess, and like men, honestly. Jason is absolutely who Sabrina Carpenter was talking about in her song Manchild, and you cannot convince me otherwise. So you kind of have the first section of the book, which is about like the journey of the Argo from where was it, Iolcus to Colchis. Lots of place names I can't remember. It talks about that and has a lot of women involved in that. You also get kind of the POV of the boat itself. You know how like boats are often referred to with like female pronouns, and it's like, why would you assume their gender? And then eventually the Argo lands on Colchis, and that is when Medea is introduced. Actually, Medea doesn't come into the story for like a full 150 pages. I was just kind of waiting for her to appear, really. And it took a while, and that was why I was kind of surprised at like the fact that it was marketed so much as a Medea retelling when Medea doesn't appear for ages and ages. But yeah, she does eventually appear, and overall, I did really like her as a protagonist, as much as a protagonist who doesn't appear for 150 pages can be a protagonist. Um, but yeah, I liked her. Um, she's just a very interesting character in all of her iterations. But oftentimes we kind of we kind of know her as just always being constantly angry and just being this embodiment of female rage, and she's just kind of unhinged and vengeful. And you do get a little bit of that in here, but most of all, this version of Medea is just so motivated by love. Um, love for Jason initially, but also love for her children eventually. And that is her real kind of motive throughout this entire book, which I loved that as a take. So yeah, I did like her, but I think I was actually more interested in reading the other POVs, if that makes sense. Like for example, the Lemnos saga, but also like the goddesses meddling and stuff. And you do get less and less of that as the story progresses and it focuses more and more on Medea and her story with Jason. And that was good, but like I was kind of missing the other POVs when it started to focus a little bit more on her. I also felt like the second half of the book, like once they've gotten the Golden Fleece and they've left Colchis and they've settled on Corinth, another place name that I can't remember, um, it kind of felt like the second half of the book was like a completely different novel to the first. I think partly because it is just a different story, really. Like same characters, but it's not really the Argonautica anymore. It's more it's very much inspired by Euripides' Medea, and Natalie Haynes did translate the entire Medea as kind of part of her research into this novel, which is like so cool, the ultimate procrastination. And I would love to see her version of Medea staged at some point, and maybe with me in it in the cast, please. But yeah, it did kind of mean that the book felt very different. Um, like there are a lot less characters involved in the play Medea because it's a play. There's less cast generally, which meant less POVs, which, as I said, I wasn't a massive fan of. But also, like, the language and the writing style changed as well. Like, the language felt a lot more archaic and kind of old fashioned and more like it was taken directly from the play. Whereas the first half of the part inspired by like the Argonautica and other stories of the Argo, that felt a little bit more modern, I think, because it was a slightly looser adaptation of the story because it drew from so many different sources. It didn't mean there was just kind of one source to translate, basically. So yeah, the language felt very different. There were less POVs. It just generally felt a little bit slower in pace. I did really like the ending. The ending of this book is slightly different to the ending of um Medea, the play. Um it gets to kind of a similar like end point, like the same stuff happens, but it happens in a slightly different way, which I really liked, and I thought it was definitely a really appropriate choice for this version of Medea that Natalie Haynes wrote. But yeah, I don't know. The second half definitely felt very different, and yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just it's a different thing. I don't know. So yeah, overall, um, I really like the first half. Second half kind of fell off a little bit. Really like the ending. Um, it's not my favorite Natalie Haynes book. I think my favorite is still definitely A Thousand Ships. Because I think the multiple POV style works so well for that concept because it's a Trojan War retelling and that has so many characters and it's very much an ensemble cast. So having multiple POVs and having so many characters involved and like sharing their story, I think that really works very well for kind of showing just how much the war affected so many people. And then on the other hand, you have Stone Blind, which is explicitly marketed as Medusa's story. That is literally what it says on the cover of my copy. It literally says Medusa's story. But like, if it is Medusa's story, then why isn't she the one telling it? Why are there so many other people involved to the point where Medusa doesn't actually have that many, or even any? It's been a while since I read it. Any chances to really share her side of the story? I don't know. Maybe that was like a deliberate choice in the writing, and I just didn't get it. But yeah, it was. It felt a bit weird to me. For me, it just didn't really work. I think For this one, I was kind of 50-50 on the whole multiple POV thing. I do really enjoy how Natalie Haynes writes multiple POVs, because she does give every character kind of unique narrative voice, which is nice. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Kind of slightly mixed feelings about this. I enjoyed it. I still think it's worth the read, definitely. Especially like going into autumn. I feel like Medea, like just her whole story is it feels very autumnal. I don't know if it's just the female rage of it all. It feels autumnal. But yeah, it does cover so much more than just Medea. So don't go into it expecting just a Medea retelling. Um, but yeah, I would still recommend. I think I preferred the first half over the second. I'm gonna stop yapping now. I'm gonna put the book down. Um, yeah, that's all I really have to say. That's more than enough. I have yapped for long enough. So yeah, that's it really. Still a while until the next book arrives, um, which is definitely one of my most anticipated releases for this year, if not my most anticipated release for this year. I have said that about other books in this video, but I'm genuinely really, really excited for this one. And also, I have not read it yet. I didn't get an arc of it or anything, so I am genuinely excited for when it arrives in the post. And I'm going to do a little bit of preparatory reading for it. Just a little reread of another book. So I'm gonna hopefully finish that book before the book that is coming will arrive, and then I can get straight into that one. And that is going to be the last book for this video. So we're almost at the end. Just gotta wait until this next book arrives and just be impatient. I will see you then. Today's the day.
Today's the day!
I know exactly what is in this. It's arrived just in time. The book literally came out today. I can't wait to open this. Let's get it open. Satisfying. Oh, she is thick. That is a thick book. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Ah! I love Mona Awad. She never misses. I love her books. All of them. And I reread Bunny in preparation for this, just to remind myself of everything that happens, all the little details and everything, because the first time I read it was literally 2.5 years ago. And yeah, my memory isn't that good. So I reread it, and I was a little bit nervous that it wouldn't live up to like the expectations that I put on it. Like the pedestal that I put it on is one of my favorite books ever. But it is just it's that girl. It is so good. It was so good that I did not want to leave it at home, and I brought it with me to the McFly and Busted concert that I went to day before last, and I read it at the concert. And yeah, second time round was just as good. Like, it was a slightly different experience because I knew all of the twists and I knew where it was going. First time around, I had no idea. Like, you just could not expect all of the shit that goes down in that book. It just is so wild. And what I wouldn't give to like have my memory wiped, have one of those like Men in Black like spray kind of things with the light, just to have my memory of that book wiped so I can read it for the first time again, just so that like I can experience that again, just not knowing what is coming next and just being surprised all the time, but in the best way. But I'm hoping that I'm going to get a similar experience with this. Like, it's a follow-up to Bunny. It's both a prequel and a sequel, I hear. So that will be interesting, I guess. I don't really know what else to expect. I'm going to go into it with an open mind. I'm not going to have too many expectations because I think if I do, then ultimately I will end up being disappointed. So yeah, going into it with an open mind.
I'm just looking forward to the experience, guys. This is exciting, and I can't wait any longer. So I'm gonna start reading right away. I will see you when I'm done.
Right. I have been putting off this filming this part of the video for a couple of days just because I didn't really know what to say. Um yeah. So, we love you, Bunny. You know how in the last part I was like, oh, this video is going really well. All the books I have liked or loved so far. I'm really excited for this one. I think it's going to be the best one. It's like my most anticipated read for the year. I think it's going to be great. I think I might have jinxed it. So this book is a sequel slash prequel to Bunny. Apparently, it also works as a standalone, although in my opinion, it doesn't because it would entirely spoil Bunny if you were to read this one first. So I personally don't think it works standalone at all. But you know what? Agree to disagree. This book, I think, like present day wise, it takes place 5 years after the events of Bunny. The main character of Bunny, Samantha, has written a book about her experience at university, which actually turns out to be the book Bunny. So there's a whole kind of book inside a book, very meta thing going on, which I actually quite enjoy. Like in theory, on paper, that is something that I enjoy. And she's going on this book tour to promote Bunny. And on this book tour, she stops off at her university town, where she is kidnapped by the bunnies of the book. These kind of it's this clique of like very kind of preppy, like pretty mean girls who were on Samantha's course and also had like a cult where they performed occult rituals. And they aren't particularly happy with how they have been presented in the book because like they are kind of the villains of the book. Yeah, they are the villains of the book. Um, and so they kidnap Samantha and force her to sit through them telling the story from their perspective. It's kind of like the origin story of them as a group and how they kind of came into this power, into creating this art form, this rather weird and mysterious art form, this kind of weird and mysterious and murderous art form, because they do consider it very much an art form in this book and in Bunny. So yeah, you get the story as told from the point of view of the four bunnies, plus also a secret fifth POV as well, which I won't I won't really give any more information about that because that is potentially going into spoiler territory. But yes, there is a fifth POV of a character that does not appear in Bunny. It's a brand new character who plays quite a significant role in this story as told in this book. But overall, we did not love you, Bunny. This book was fine. It was just fine, which is kind of disappointing for a book that I was hoping would be amazing. So let's talk about the stuff I liked first, because there are things that I liked in this book. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is Menawad. Like, there is bound to be things that I enjoy about her writing. I really like the exploration of the bunnies as individual characters and also like as a collective, as a group. The book starts off with a section narrated by each of them, and their narrative voices are so strong. It's so yeah, so clear, and you can tell so much about their character from them. Like these are just four characters that kind of jump off the page at you, and it was really cool to hear a collection of such different, distinct narrative voices as well that were all very strong. I did enjoy how they were kind of telling the story and also like talking to each other as well at the same time as telling the story and like arguing with each other. That was fun. And I really like the group dynamic that was explored as well between them. Like they all have both this like all-consuming love for each other. Like they are practically soulmates, but at the same time, they also have this violent jealousy of each other because they are all so insecure, and that becomes even more apparent in this book than it did in Bunny. After that first part, when they come back as narrators, they are narrators as like a collective, and they use like we, us pronouns. Like it's written in the fourth person, which is something that I really enjoyed in Bunny. Like there is a section in Bunny, like a chapter that is told in that style, and I loved that. I thought that worked really well in Bunny. I I feel like it potentially goes on too long in this book, which I think is a theme that you are going to see a lot more of when I talk about other aspects of this book. It just, yeah, it goes on a little bit too long and it gets a bit old. So, yeah, there are parts of the book I enjoy. There are parts that are fun and silly and very camp. I did have a little chuckle one or two times. I loved the ending as well. I thought it was the perfect way to round off the story. And it wasn't like an ending that I would be able to expect or predict, but it wasn't an ending that I think completely came out of nowhere either. Like it was, yeah, just a good way to round off the story. And now onto the negatives. Um, Most of this, honestly, is just going to come down to the fact that I think the book needed considerable editing. Like, this is almost 500 pages long. Bunny, the first book, is about 350 pages long, and I think, and this might sound harsh, I think this book could have easily been cut down to about that length. Like, we could have gotten a 350 or 400 odd page book from this. We could have cut out good chunks, and I think having a slightly more concise narrative would have helped. About half of it is narrated from this secret fifth perspective, that I will not mention because spoilers. I think you just need to find out for yourself if you want to read it. But it has this, again, this very distinct narrative style, but this one just kind of it got old quite quickly. Um, it just, yeah, it was a bit of a quirky random XD style narration that I think would have worked really well had it just been shorter. I think I probably could have handled a good few chapters of it, but after that, it did get a little bit jarring, I think. I did actually find this new secret fifth character vaguely endearing. Um like it is an interesting and fully fleshed out character who goes on quite a journey throughout the book. Um which I did enjoy, but like it was so long and there were definitely parts that could have been cut down for sure. And I also think that on the whole, the fact that this book was so long meant that things were over explained, and they were explained in a kind of meta, haha, see what I did there kind of way. Like, there would be some kind of narrative device used, and then that narrative device would be explained. It would be like, aha, you see that narrative device that I just used? It's very good, very literary. I am smart. Like, that felt kind of patronizing, in my opinion. And look, I'm not saying that there was a lot of like subtlety in Bunny. It's not a very subtle book. It's weird and camp and unashamed of itself. But any subtlety and nuance that was in Bunny were just completely lost in this book. There was no nuance whatsoever because it was just so long and things were just over explained. It was just, and this is going to sound really mean. I don't want to be mean, but it did just feel like a whole lot of word vomit. It just needed to be edited down. Like, there needed to be an editor who could be brave enough to go, look, I love what you're doing, but you can cut this whole chunk out. You can cut all of these sentences. You don't have to explain everything to people like they're five. So yeah, it's a difficult one because I feel like despite not wanting to set my expectations too high, my expectations were probably too high because Bunny is one of my favorite books of all time. And if I'm being realistic, like, I don't think it would have been possible to fully replicate Bunny, to have another book that gave me the same kind of feeling as Bunny did. I don't know if that made any sense. There were definitely things that I liked about this book, but there was also a lot of stuff that I didn't like, and I would have loved a book that had all of the stuff that I did like and then just cut down on the stuff I didn't like a little bit, just so that we could have a slightly smaller and more impactful book. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. This was a little bit of a disappointment, unfortunately. And I'm really annoyed because this is the book we are ending the video on. This is the final book of the video, and it is the one I found least enjoyable. That is really annoying and quite depressing. But anyway, I'm just gonna get all of these books here. These are the 5 books. If you had forgotten what I had read in this video because it is just too long, these are the books I read in this video. In summary, this one, Katabasis. This one, Beautiful Evil. This one, Boudicca's Daughter. Fantastic. Chef's Kiss. Loved it. Let's not forget that I read some absolute bangers in this video just because we ended on a low. Then we have No Friend to This House, which I thought was good, but it's not my favorite Natalie Haynes, and yeah, it was good, but it wasn't great. And this one, I would struggle to say it's even good. I think it's fine. It's okay. If you loved Bunny and you're like really, really precious about the Bunnyverse and the characters and everything, I don't know, maybe give it a miss. Maybe just like protect your peace and reread Bunny because that book is still fantastic. But if you are curious, then like go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Go on, read it. That sounded like a challenge. That is not a challenge. You don't have to read the book if you don't want to. Anyway, these are heavy. I'm gonna put these down. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you got to the end. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's definitely going to be over an hour because I'm about halfway through editing, and it is almost an hour. The stuff that I have edited is almost an hour, and we still have a way to go. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. If you like this video and you want to see more, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. And yeah, I have a lot of other videos that you can go see if you haven't already. And if you have, then I don't know when my next video is going to be. It might be like 3 months from now. We'll see. But you can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, Storygraph, Blue Sky for more regular posts. More regular than on here. My username on all those platforms is @WitherJones, the same as it is on here. So yeah, go and follow me on there for more content. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I will see you when I see you in the next video. Bye.